Over the last 12 days, roughly 225 tornadoes have wreaked havoc in the Midwest. Just this week, 82 storms touched down, leaving a path of destruction from eastern Indiana to central Ohio. Several people were killed, dozens injured, and hundreds of homes were destroyed.
Late spring and early summer are considered tornado season. While multiple twisters are common, researchers say that they have not seen a pattern this productive in years. Joining us via Skype to explain what this is and what's causing these devastating events is meteorologist and storm chaser Quincy Vagell. He joins us now via Skype. Thank you for being here, Quincy.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
So tell me, what's the cause of this at a very kind of basic level?
Well, there's been a very stagnant pattern where you've had this ridge of high pressure across the southeastern United States, and then in the West Coast, you've had a trough of low pressure. And when these two systems come together, you tend to get tornadoes. But what's been unique this year is that the pattern's been so stagnant for about 2 weeks. Literally day after day, you've had just patterns of several tornadoes.
And what can be done to, are there any early predictors for this? Or what are the ways that one can best prepare when you're in the midst of a tornado season like this? Which, by the way, is this unprecedented? How rare is it to have this many tornadoes in such a short period of time?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. It's probably been the most active stretch we've seen since at least 2010, so about a decade. Or yes, 2010, 2011 had very active stretches, so it's been a while. And I think there's been a little bit of complacency as well because the last few years have been pretty quiet. But there is some research being done. Victor Gensini from the University of Northern Illinois has done some great research, and you can see the writing on the wall about 2 or 3 weeks in advance that we were seeing a really active pattern. But the tricky thing is you can't say exactly what state or what city might get hit. You can just say, okay, the central United States should be bracing over the next couple of weeks. So there's still a lot of ways to come with tornado prediction. It's really hard to get very specific more than a couple of days in advance.
Now, Quincy, you're one of the country's leading experts on this stuff. Can you tell us a little bit more specifically about your work and how you got here and what you do every day?
Well, it's interesting. I got my degree in meteorology back in 2009. I worked in TV for a few years, and believe it or not, I thought that was actually boring for me. I wanted to be out in the field, storm chasing. So I've been storm chasing for about 6 years now. It's not exactly the most profitable business, but for me, it's more about it's learning, the excitement of being in front of storms, and then just getting to know more about weather, which has been a fascination of mine for a long time.
So you're like the real-life Bill Paxton. What's it like to be inside of the eye of one of these incredible storms?
Being up close and personal to a tornado, it's unreal. It's funny. When I was a child, I used to have dreams of being chased by a tornado, and I think part of this has been overcoming those fears. But being really close to a storm, it's just unreal because you have the rushing wind. As you can see in the video there, it's really hard to explain unless you're there. It's really unreal.
Have you had any close calls in doing this? Have you ever gotten too close to a tornado that was too powerful?
Well, actually, the video you're running there was an EF4 that hit just southwest of Kansas City a couple of days ago. I was really close to that. Luckily, I was able to get out of the way. My first encounter with a tornado back in 2014, there was an EF4 in Arkansas, and if you're not familiar with Arkansas, there's a lot of trees, and I could not even see the tornado until it was almost directly in front of me, and I had to get out of there. And that was my first tornado experience ever. So I've learned a lot since then. I usually try to keep a good distance so I'm not too close.
Now, Quincy, we're in D.C. and we're all about the politics of the country. So, I got to ask, is this caused by climate change, or do you see any nexus whatsoever between kind of the grand idea of climate change and this unusual spike in tornadic activity?
Well, it's really interesting because the research on climate change and tornado activity is kind of mixed. If you go back to before this year, we actually had a record tornado drought for about 2014 to 2018. But if you look in the bigger scale of things, I do think that when ocean temperatures are rising, you have more fuel in the Gulf of Mexico. And what we're seeing is Tornado Alley is possibly being shifting a little bit from the plains a little bit eastward toward parts of the Mississippi Valley, the Midwest, and the Southeast. So there's no doubt that climate change can impact tornado activity, but it's hard to say that climate change by itself is just going to cause all these tornado outbreaks.
And there has been this movement out east, so we're seeing more tornadoes now outside of what's known as Tornado Alley, right?
Yeah, that's true. The last week has been very active. Actually, I grew up in Connecticut, so I've been kind of watching this a little bit. Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, they've had, and even Ohio too, there have been a lot of tornadoes there recently. And that goes back to that ridge of high pressure across the southeast that I was talking about before. Once that ridge migrates farther north and west, you'll see that activity shift, but it's been stagnant. So even the Northeast has had a very active stretch of severe weather recently.
All right, Quincy, thanks so much for sharing your expertise, my friend. Stay safe out there.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
Next on Rising, a new study shows that a majority of students find hate speech protection more important than diversity and inclusion.
The Director of Learning and Impact at the Knight Foundation explains the results and why these issues are important to explore when Rising returns.